We get your updates as we move along. Well, in light of this conversation of the cost of living, the bigger question is, how are residents in Nairobi going through this particular season? Well, our reporter Alicia Liabule was out on the streets of Nairobi and now brings us the following sentiments from Kenyans.
Cost of living for the past 3 to 4 months has gone very high. Most of the commodities have been very high, from the basic needs. Actually, even putting a plate of food on the table is a big challenge to majority of us Kenyans who are below average.
About cost of living, everything is high. Local foods like bread, things we consume every day, cooking oil is very high. Electricity tokens, they're very high. Water, the way you pay water nowadays is very expensive. So cost of living, it's very high to a common Kenyan.
Kumekuwa na changamoto mingi sana, especially in terms of water na electricity. Zile the past 3 months, vile tulikuwa tunalipa maji na stima is not the same. Na walikuwa wamesema wana revise. So up to now, to me personally, I'm still experiencing it's a bit high. Alafu pia mambo ya transport vile wale revive rule ya matatu, watu kutumia belts, na I think cost mafuta ilipanda na pia so it affects the rates of transport from one place to another. Kwa mfano kutoka hapa mpaka Thika ni ushago kwetu, we used to pay 50 shillings, lakini saizi imepanda, it's like 100 shillings depending kutoka from one place to another.
Kitu kiko juu kulingana na hali ya maisha, hata sikari nalia. Sasa sisi watu wa chini ndo sasa hatuseme, midomo imeshafungana.
Unajua katika hali ya transport unajaribu unakaa pale stage, unangoja kwanza gari irudi chini kidogo, zile saa za usiku ndio unapanda gari, unaenda nyumbani, unatumia ile transport kidogo. Tena asubuhi ukiamka, unaamka mapema kabisa, tuseme kama saa 10 hivi, saa 11 ndio uweze kufika town kwa bei rahisi.
Interesting sentiments there. Let's now take you down to Ngara, where we have our reporter Brenda Kirubo, who will be just also interacting with the various traders and getting their assessment of where the economy is headed, especially when it comes to the cost of commodities. Have prices changed or not? Brenda, a very good afternoon to you. Great to see you. I'm sure you've already had a great time interacting with the traders down there, but just walk us and take us through some of the key aspects that you've been able to pick out, especially on how much is, say, how much can you spend on 50 shillings when you're buying tomatoes?
Good afternoon, Abby, from Fig Tree Market in Ngara, Nairobi. Now, of course, you know, this market for fresh produce is specifically located in Nairobi's Ngara area, but also the most people around the surroundings, is the Parklands area, are the majority of people who actually shop over here. About 500 people visit the market every day, and they buy mostly stuff like potatoes, carrots, as well as tomatoes. Now, for today, I have 200 shillings on my hand. The question is, what exactly can I buy with this amount of money? Let's find out. You have carrots here, and they're selling for about 20 shillings. I'm wondering if it's... Bariako? Ningapi hizi? Tatu 20? Aya, hizo nichukue hizi tatu. Utanifungia tafadhali? Wacha niweke hapa. Carrots, shika. Kuna kitunguu nyanya? Na nyanya, haya mama, wacha niongeze nyanya. Nyanya ni ngapi?
10. Moja ni 10.
Moja ni 10? Lakini mam, si 5, 3?
Kuna jua kali sana.
Kuna jua kali?
Kuna jua kali, nyanya iko na bei kali.
Hebu niulize, hii nyanya ningenunua masaa kama last year, ilikuwa inauzwa na bei the same? Ilikuwa 10 bob ama ilikuwa 5 bob?
Ilikuwa 3 for 20.
3 for 20. Na saizi na buy 3 for?
1 for 10.
1 for 10.
Yeah.
Bei kali sana, lakini unajua siwezi pika chakula bila nyanya. Wacha nichukue kama 5 hivi. Alafu kitunguu pia. Kitunguu ni ngapi?
Moja ni 10 bob.
Moja ni 10. Lakini unajua kitunguu si ni mzuri najua. Hebu niambie ilikuwa inauza kama bei ngapi hivi last year hivi?
Zilikuwa 320 but sasa hii kuna jua kali, moja ni 10 bob.
Kwa hivyo jua hata si ati inaisaidia sana, inaendelea kuharibu. Na nikiuliza mkiitoa penye mnanunuanga na muzilete hapa, hizo transportation cost, unaona kama zimeongezeka compared to last year?
Iko juu kuliko last year.
Hebu niambie kama kwa siku hivi ulikuwa una spend kama ngapi ukileta vitu kwa soko na saizi una spend kama ngapi?
Saa hii unaweza tumia transport ya 500 na last year ungetumia kama ya 300 ama 200 kwa mtu wa mkoko, but not si gali. Yeah.
Ai sawa. So nimenunua kitunguu, nipatie kitunguu kama 3 hivi. Na viazi mko nazo?
Viazi sisi hatuna, labda
Nisonge mbele. Hiyo sasa naona kama itakuwa luxury kiasi kwangu. Ni ngapi hivi?
hiyo ni 350.
Lakini sinaweza pika chakula bila hoho. Viazi ndo siwezi kosa, napenda viazi sana. Wacha nisonge mbele. Unaweza nipatia change? Hizi ni pesa ngapi?
Hizi ni 50, 80, 100.
Unaona hiyo ni so imeisha tu hivyo. Na ungeangalia last year ningetumia pesa ngapi hivi?
Hii ungetua 50 bob.
Sawa, wacha niendelee mbele. So utanirudishia suo yangu?
Wewe hata ni mimi nauza.
Asante sana.
Karibu tena.
Abby, as you can see already, I've just bought some typical, what you would call groceries that you would need to just make the basic foods. Like, I haven't even put sukuma wiki here. I haven't even put any potatoes, just the basics, tomatoes and carrots. And already I've spent 100 shillings. I'm wondering how much the potatoes are going to cost me, or even the vegetables such as sukuma wiki and cabbage, even fruits, because I have to have a balanced diet. Let's speak to these women and find out. They're doing some peas. Let's find out how much exactly they're selling them for. Maybe I can have vegetables like peas and do away with some starch. They could be cheaper. Habari zenyu? Mahindi ni pesa ngapi?
50, kuna ya 100.
Ngapi hiyo?
Kuna ya 50, kuna ya 100, kuna ya 150 1 kg.
Na hiyo viazi ni 50? 250. Ma'am, mimi naona kama hiyo viazi ndio mingi. Sijui ni bebe hiyo viazi. Wacha nichukue hiyo. Wezi niekea 25?
Ni dogo sana.
Na last year mlikuwa mnauza hivyo?
Hapana.
Hebu niambie last year hiyo mkebe ya 50 ilikuwa inaenda pesa ngapi?
20.
Na ni kwa nini imeongezeka?
Juu ya uchumi vile iko.
Kama saizi ukisema uchumi ni nini inaenda kwa hiyo kuongezea kwa hiyo mkebe?
Jua.
Na transportation hivi, bei ya mafuta?
Hiyo ndio iko kali kabisa.
Sawa, nifungie hiyo ya 50, lakini mimi kama customer hizi nifanyia 25. Inaonekana leo nitakula viazi na carrots peke yake. Nifungie hiyo ya 50. Inaweza squeeze hapa kwa sababu naona pesa zangu zinaweza kosa kutosha. Wacha ziweke hapo ndani.
Hata paper bag tunauza.
Pesa mingi sana hiyo. Na hiyo cabbage ni pesa ngapi?
Hiyo ni 100.
Hiyo pesa zangu hazitatosha. Mko na sukuma ama spinach?
Huko mbele.
Wacha niangalie huko mbele. Lakini unaona sasa nitakuwa nimebaki na 50 peke yake.
Utakuwa umebaki na 50. Sinunue nyanya na mayai.
Nyanya nimeshanunua. Sasa nataka sukuma ama cabbage ndio angalau nikule balanced diet. Mpatia 50. Nimeshukuru ma'am. Sawa. So Abby, we now have 50 shillings out of the 200 bob. I just have the typical basics, some potatoes, carrots, tomatoes, as well as onions. Let's find out whether I'll have a balanced diet at the end of the day, or I'll have to pinch my budget just to fit my pocket. So we have hoho here. We have, seems like it's a bit of a luxury to me. I'm tempted to buy the sweet mangoes that are quite tempting, but I don't think I can afford them. Maembe mnauza pesa ngapi? I'm told they're 3 for 100. No, my money cannot allow me to buy such. Let's stick to the basic. Get some spinach. Maybe I get some cabbage. Mko na spinach? Uko nje? I'm seeing the spinach. Abi, for today, For today, let's stick to, because I'm seeing the spinach and they somehow don't look that fresh. This is because I've been warned, because of the sun has become a bit too hot. Some of the produce in the market are actually drying up, and also they are not that fresh. So they are buying commodities that they would consider when they bring them in, they do have a longer shelf life. They're bringing in the cabbages, the skuma wikis, the kale, and other vegetables. But by midday, I'm told that they all dry up because, they're expensive when they put them in a bunch and people cannot afford them, or they even bargain. I've just come from bargaining. They're saying that people bargain even more. But they're saying that because of that, it limits the amount of produce that they actually bring to the market. So they're saying we actually limit the amount of, they call capital goods that they bring in, and they stick to the basic stuff like tomatoes and potatoes that they know very well that people cannot do without, because people have to either take ugali or potatoes or rice. So the typical commodities that will be considered that they will be sold out. Abby, I've just spent about 150. I haven't even incorporated fruits or anything that they would term luxurious, such as hoho or even, in our local language, danias. Of course, this one prices up the food, but I just can't afford it because I'm limited. I have 50 shillings, and with that 50 shillings, if I were to take a bus home, that would be considered my fare. Abby, this just goes to show you just how much the cost of living and also the cost of produce has gone up. Few indicators from the vendors here are telling me that the amount of money that they were used to spend about a year ago when it comes to bringing in the commodities from other key mega markets was actually cheaper. And also at the same time, the commodities themselves, they're saying that last year the weather was actually brighter. It was, the rains were there, so which means that the produce that they were bringing into the market was actually fresh. So they're saying because the weather is not so supportive, that the commodities they're bringing in are a bit dry and also scarce. Now, scarcity, of course, means that the commodities are fewer, which means that they actually fetch a much higher price. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that inflation may have gone up in terms of may have gone down in terms of numbers, but it seems like in this market in Fig Tree in Ngara, the prices of commodities has actually gone up. Others are saying it's relatively flat, but the key term over here is the fact that if you had about 100 shillings last year, that same 100 shillings this year, the commodities that you would have bought in terms of quality and quantity is absolutely a 360-degree turn of events. Abby?
Well, Brenda, I hope you have some fare back home. Looking at what you've shopped so far, totaling to about 150 shillings, it goes to tell you really how much Kenyans do spend on an average day-to-day basis. Of course, the average spend give or take per household comes to about 200 shillings. Many thanks, Brenda Kerubo, and of course, we continue to stay on top of this particular story in relation to how does this affect you at the end of the day. That is what we try to achieve for you here on the program. Remember, you can keep engaging with us on our social media handles, and of course, we shall be able to have the conversation as much as the show comes to an end. We shall have the conversation offline. Many thanks for your company, and let's quickly take a look at some of your feedback on our social media question today. And the question was, how are you adjusting to the cost of living? Let me check out some of your tweets on our social media in relation to today's topic. And of course, a lot of you are saying that we are basically surviving from hand to mouth. That is one of the common consensus I've picked up from the various comments that are coming in. And of course, this goes to show you really how the basic goods are a big challenge for many households across the country. Well, like I now actually have a couple of tweets. There's a tweet here from Ogembo Edward saying that cutting off the budget on luxurious things, it's gotten tough, so learning to manage under strict budgets. Another tweet here from Ogola Mwavali saying keeping track of market flexibilities and fluctuations, also working towards meeting the cost of living. It's tough times anyway here. Another tweet here from Freddie Frasher saying limiting my regular visits to places of which I believe it's going to save me a lot. Well, That's the much we can share as of now. We've run out of time, but we do appreciate your consistent feedback on our questions, and of course keep watching and share with us your feedback. My name is Abi Agina. On behalf of the entire team that made this a success, we do say a big thank you. Of course, my director there, Xavier Ouma, who is looking forward to that sumptuous meal at the end of the day, of course, but you have to pay a pretty penny for that. Well, let's do this tomorrow, same time, same place. Coming up next is our team with more news from across the country on our Swahili broadcast.